Is Dark and Darker a stolen game? I'm sure the mechanics and stuff have existed in other games, but let's take a look. I haven't heard anything about this.
Dark and Darker is a stolen IP. Is this game stolen? Here we go. Let's watch it. Why not? This is interesting, I'm sure.
Good morning, everyone. My name is Onepeg, and in today's video, we're going to talk about Dark and Darker.
We really, like, bro, like, come on. Like, we gotta dial this up a bit. Like, we got, like, I remember, like, Drama Alert, like, that fucking Earth comes in, and it's like, da-da, like, the music is fucking lit, and then, like, the screen changes, and it's fucking Keemstar with the G Fuel hat, and he's like, what's up, it's your boy, Killer Keemstar here, you know, and you're ready to hear all about what some 12-year-old on TikTok said 3
Nexon claims Dark and Darker was stolen
years ago, whenever he was 9, that he's getting canceled by his
I don't
middle school audience.
remember them
for,
releasing
right?
anything
like
like
you were
that.
fucking ready for that. Yeah, come on.
See, there's the possibility that Dark and Darker may have, I guess, stolen some assets, possibly an entire game from Nexon. So this morning, this morning my time anyway, a Korean staff blogger by the name of Woody posted an article on the popular gaming site This Is Game that stated that Dark and Darker may have been created from stolen assets from the gaming media megacorporation Nexon. To be fair, this entire article was written in Korean, and I'm using Google Translate to the best of its ability to translate this, but for the most part, I think the translation is accurate and you definitely get the idea. And for those unfamiliar, Nexon is a Seoul, South Korea-based company that is most famous for having created the game MapleStory. Although Nexon has developed a large series...
You have to remember, MapleStory was the genesis of microtransactions.
True. Pay-to-win game. Like, it probably was the first, like, big pay-to-win game.
Of other games, all of them, for the most part, are gacha games.
Yep.
They're games that are derived from taking money.
So that means that Dark and Darker will have gacha in it.
Well, no, because Dark and Darker is someone else. But Dark and Dark, well, if it was released by Nexon, more than likely the Dark and Darker would have had a ton of microtransactions.
It is.
For premium currency and whatnot, skins, all of that other stuff, trying to incentivize all of us into going in as whales into whatever game it is that they've been producing. Before I get into the meat of this video, though, I want to be very clear that there are no sources, actual sources, being cited in the article.
Well,
they don't reference anyone at Nexon, they don't state that they have a source at Nexon, and they do not link to any external source. They don't even state that they had a conversation with anyone at Nexon or anyone close to Nexon.
I would almost say this is probably not true. Just because if you played any of the other Nexon games, like, this is so far away from their normal stuff. It would be really surprising if this was true. And I'm not talking about, like, the gameplay or the graphics, but I'm talking about, like, the mechanics of the game is absolutely nothing what they would have done, I think, at least. Because one, they are in South Korea, so they tend to lean more towards the Asian themed or anime style.
Or provide any other media than a few screenshots that were taken from a games showcase that was teasing a project from August 2021. Also, while I have attempted to reach out to Terry, the CEO of Iron Mace Games, as well as a couple of other developers that I've been working closely with at the development team over the course of the various playtests,
I would definitely say that, like, if you look at these screenshots, like this screenshot, if this is a screenshot from the Nexon game, this is exactly like Dark and Darker. But
also,
I think this is just Dark and Darker.
I have attempted to reach out to Terry, the CEO of Iron Mace Games, as well as a couple of other developers that I've been working closely with at the development team.
Wait, let me see if I can see.
Of Iron Mace Games, as well as a couple of other developers that I've been working closely with at the...
Is this exactly the same? Maybe a bit, but, like, not really. I mean,
the theme is similar. So is the style. But it's hard to say if it's a one-to-one.
The various playtests. I have not been able to reach or gain comment from any of them about this, and given the time of day that I'm recording this, it's likely that they are kind of going off to sleep right now. You know, they've been working, I don't know, 30 and 40-hour days at a clip trying to make sure that the server stayed up, so I don't blame them for trying to get some sleep. Okay, on to the article. The author states that the majority of people that are working for Iron Mace Games right now, developing Dark and Darker, are from a mass exodus of employees that at one time worked for Nexon on a project coined Project P3. The article alleges that the developer...
That's a big accusation. Holy shit.
It really is. Yeah, because you can't just take assets that you made under one developer and use those same assets once you left that developer if they've have the copyright to it, which it does sound like they did.
Were disenfranchised with being told to stop development on what is being coined as Project P3. The article then states that in March of 2022, there was an interview that was done with an executive at Nexon where the executive stated that Project P3 had been halted and shifted its development away from Project P3, which was being designed as some form of a dungeon crawler, where in the screenshots you can see that it looks relatively similar to that of Dark and Darker, to a project...
I think that, like, one problem, too, is that, like, you'd have to really go down into the weeds and actually look at the assets were legitimately stolen or not, because Dark and Darker is a low fantasy game. It has, like, monsters and, like, things like that, but other than that, most things are rooted in reality.
And even the monsters and stuff are all generic. Like, nothing is super unique to where it'd be like, oh yeah, it definitely came from that game. Because it also is a case where they could have taken the ideas from Project P3 or whatever it's called and made a game from that while not reusing the assets, but remaking them in their new game, for their new game. And that would be different. Because it's not like games have monopoly on like wooden doors and stuff like that.
So barrels look like barrels, bricks look like bricks.
Exactly.
Called or coined as P7, which was being developed to be a Tarkov-like shooter experience. The article went further to say that in September of 2021, Nexon posted a job listing looking for someone that specialized in data gathering for tactical movement and firearms handling, between how the firearms were supposed to be held in the hands to posture, moving between cover, etc. This coincides with the idea that the project was shifted away from, again, a dungeon crawler experience to something that was much more
Like
Tarkov-like.
yeah.
Now, if we line this up with timing, the article states that the corporation for Iron Mace, according to corporate filings, was created in October of 2021, shortly after this job posting was made. So this at least seems like it has a little bit of merit. The article then goes further to say that the development team...
I mean, I don't know if merit would be the right word, but it's less likely to not be true, I guess. Or, yeah. It's less likely to be false, but that doesn't mean it's more likely to be true in a sense.
That had been working on Project P3, which now was moving to the Tarkov-esque P7, became jaded with having to move away from that project, which they apparently deemed to be something that would be successful for Nexon, and instead started leaking assets from P3 that they had been working on to the outside, going so far, I guess, as to have been caught in some of these instances and disciplined, again, according to the article. I know that I keep saying according to the article, but again, this is literally the only source that exists, and there are no other sources listed. So
yeah, you would think like if they had leaks and stuff like that, people would have known about it. And as someone who does play some Nexon games, like I think I would have heard about it at least a little, but I don't remember anything like this. And it sounds like they had no links to those prior leaks. So to me, it also, like, there's more things to say that this is not true than that it's true.
I apologize. Subsequently, the article also...
I mean, I would also say, like, this is something that, like, if there's no sources and there's no evidence, like, you could make evidence, for example. Like, let's say you had a screenshot of this game that, like, Nexus was working on, or Nexon was working on, and you had a side-by-side of that game and Dark and Darker, or a side-by-side of certain assets and Dark and Darker assets, and it was a one-for-one similarity, you wouldn't need as much evidence because the evidence is evident, right? It's just there, right there in front of everybody.
Yeah.
But we're not really seeing a lot of that. I don't think that I've seen any evidence that makes this compelling.
Exactly what I was
believes
saying.
that the core team of P3 has either all quit or been fired, and following that event banded together to create Dark and Darker. It also says that there are some members of that core old P3 team that are still working for Nexon on Project P7. Why they went so far as to say that, I'm not sure.
What about
Perhaps
P4?
that is the source that they are getting the
Why
information
go to 7?
Finally, the article states that Nexon has reviewed the possibility of taking legal action against Iron Mace, but has been contemplating on what it is that they could or should be doing. Now, if, of course, Nexon has the ability to prove that Iron Mace has actually been the people both leaking the information and utilizing the assets to their own benefit, that has yet to be seen. But if they can do that, perhaps then they obviously have some legal...
That's going to be that's going to be really difficult to prove, because I think if they had those assets already, I think it would be a lot, like they would have already done something by now. So this may be a case where it could be true, but Nexon doesn't have those assets anymore. Maybe they're thrown out or lost or whatever, stolen maybe. Then obviously they don't have, they won't have the proof that it was their assets.
Ramifications that they could take against Iron Mace, but I think we all can agree that that would be a big shame. So to this, I have a few thoughts. To the folks at Iron Mace Games, and I hope those guys, if they are watching this, have stuck around long enough to see this.
I don't think that the Iron Mace Games, I don't think they need to issue a statement about this at all.
Yeah, I wouldn't talk about it either. Like, because Nexon's going to do what they're going to do. Nothing Iron Mace says or does is going to change anything. So there's no point in saying anything about it. It's just a wait and see approach, because it's like, it doesn't matter what the fan base or speculators are going to think or say. It's going to matter whether Nexon tries to bring him to court or not.
It's a baseless accusation.
Exactly.
They don't have to address this in any capacity. It's not there. It's not. Yeah, of course, right? And like, if there's actual proof, then they can address it or anything like that. Like, yeah, it's just bullshit.
From me. We love you guys. Everyone that I talk to thinks that you guys are fantastic game devs, and you're doing everything that you are doing for us as gamers and for your game all the right way. We think that you guys are creating something unique, fun, frustrating, engaging, and addicting in all of the right doses. Personally, I know that if I get killed in a game like this, I get frustrated, but not to the point of wanting to quit. I get frustrated in that I want to build back up as fast as I possibly can to get back to the thing that I'm trying to beat.
I haven't played Dark and Darker yet, so unfortunately I can't say too much here. I played games like them though, and yeah, this is roguelike. So to me, I really like those kind of games. I just been waiting for the full release. I don't really like playing alphas or betas if I can help it.
And the struggle bus is where I have always tried to remain as a gamer. I like the growth curve, having to build myself up again. Once you kind of get there, it's boring, you know? Second, if what was said in the article is true, honestly, good for Iron Mace. I don't condone stealing, obviously, but this has a very Robin Hood-esque feel to it, where Terry and SDF and their band of merry men are trying to take on and beat the media conglomerate that is fleecing everyone for all of their pennies.
I don't agree with that. I don't at all, because I think it predicates the assumption that it's okay to steal from something if it meets your arbitrary set of standards.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Because that's fluctuating, and it also is different person to person. I think personally what they should have done, if they stole product assets, I don't think they should have done that. I think they should have just remade the assets. It's not that hard. The graphics in Dark and Darker aren't so good that you couldn't just find someone to remake the things. You know what I mean? So it doesn't make sense to me that they would just steal it and have this chance of this happening, where Nexon could come in and just ruin their day and basically take the game away. Because if they just remake the assets and make their own game, that's not stealing. You know what I mean? Like, they don't own the copyright to like bricks and stuff like that, like Asmon said. So I think it would have been really stupid of them if they just stole it. And I don't think it's too late. Like, if they stole it then and they saw this, just freaking remake it, man. Like, take those assets out of the game. I don't know how much work that would take, because I'm not a game developer, but I would assume it wouldn't be too difficult, unless they stole everything, in which case that's really bad. But no, I agree with Asmon in that there shouldn't be a arbitrary, is it fine or not to steal based on some moral integrity or moral standing of the parties involved.
Yeah, I don't like that, because, like, for example, there's people that steal from Walmart. There's people that steal from, any of these big box stores, and they say, oh, well, it's okay that I steal from them because these places have a lot of money. Like, where do you draw the line? Like, where's the line where that's okay? I mean, morally, I mean, stealing a barrel and an asset or something like that. I think that let's look at this realistically. It's not really a big deal. If you're stealing an entire game premise and an entire functionality from a game, then yeah, that's bad. But just stealing a fucking barrel and a handful of assets, I mean, cry me a fucking river. I don't think it's a big deal. Now, obviously, should they have to, reconcile that with the company? Absolutely. And also, like, it's like gotcha games are bad, for sure.
Yeah.
But they're not scamming people.
No. You know what you're getting into. At least by this point you should. It's gambling. And it's pretty obvious it's gambling.
They're just fucking gamba. It's video game gamba. So, yeah, it's bad, but it doesn't mean that it's okay to steal from them. I, in general, do not like the idea of people justifying stealing, because I think that it's always mental gymnastics, and the more that you explore that justification of stealing, the more it becomes transparently self-serving.
Yeah. You just want to do it because you want to do it.
The Iron Mace site states that they're tired of companies fleecing people for all of their money or being run like online.
Well, you don't even know
casinos,
that's the if that's the
selling their
reason.
souls for an easy payday.
It sounds like if what the article says is true, it's not that they were going to be pay to win why they left. They left because it was going to go from a dungeon crawler with, low fantasy style to a Tarkov-like game. So it had nothing to do with it being pay to win.
We all know that Nexon would have stuffed as many microtransactions into the gamma container of this game as they possibly could.
That's their right to do so. It's their right to be able to make it a pay-to-win gamba game. Whether you like that or not, that doesn't matter.
Yeah, just don't play the game.
They have a right to make a pay-to-win game. Currently, right? If the laws change, then it's different. But right now, it's their right. I totally fucking hate that. I don't want it. But it is their fucking, God-given right to make the game they want to make.
To milk every gamer for every penny that they could possibly squeeze out of them. And that would kill the charm that this game has created for so many. Third.
Yeah, I think that everybody can simultaneously agree that if you take a game like Dark and Darker and you make it like super pay to win, it would kill the game, but it's their right to be able to kill their own game.
Oh, yeah, absolutely.
And yes.
Like, it's the same with like restaurants. If they want to skimp on quality but keep the same price, they can do that. They may go out of business soon, but it's their restaurant, their game. They can do what they want.
It would be bad, but I still think
they just can't break the law.
Autonomy to do what they want with their own stuff.
It's very possible that Iron Mace is going to have a legal battle on its hands. And if so, I hope they come out of this as unscathed as they possibly can. Because the last thing that we need as gamers is another decent indie game dev losing directorial control to another Activision fleece machine. I'm looking at you, Bungie. Anyway, guys, that's what I have for this one. Thanks so much for coming and checking it out. My name again is OnePeg. You can find me at twitch.tv/OnePeg, where I stream every day around 7 to 8 a.m. Eastern Standard Time. As always, please consider...
I think that this is my... let me finish.
Consider subbing the channel here, or follow me on Twitter at OnePegMG. And I'll see you in the next one, okay? Peace.
Okay. I think in general, like, I agree with, like... I agree with how he feels. I just... acknowledge that how he feels isn't how we can run things. Like, we can't run things where if you feel like a company is being disingenuous or bad, it's okay to ignore the rules. So while I feel the same way he does, you can't run things that way. It's impossible. Things would completely fall apart.
Exactly.
Onepeg's a good dude. No.
Like, there's a reason why when things go to court and stuff like that, it's never based on feelings. It's like, well, why you're getting court? Because you broke a law. Like, it's not because you hurt someone's feelings.
I don't think he's a bad dude. And like, again, he's looking at it from the perspective of a gamer, probably someone who loves Dark and Darker. So yeah.
Yeah, he's looking at it only from a consumer's perspective.
To him, this sucks. There it is. Companies ignore this rule nonstop. They do, to an extent. Actually, yes, you can take the idea and run with it. I can take a World of Warcraft or League of Legends type game. Oh, yeah, no, I mean, I don't know where the line is, okay? I'm not sure where the line is, but can we like, so what is being alleged here? What is being alleged is that they worked at this company and then they leaked assets publicly and then used the assets after they leaked them publicly in their own game.
Yeah.
I mean, I think
Like, it's almost like what they're being accused of is they were making a game for Nexon. Nexon decided they didn't want to continue with that game. So the team basically leaked what was already done and then all quit or were fired and then took those leaks and made a whole new game, or not a whole new game, but continued the game they were already working on, which is actually the issue. If they did that, then yeah, they're going to be in a bit of trouble. Um, it's just what their accusation is. But if it turns out that they, half of it's true, where they were working on it, but they all quit or were fired, and they just made their own game similar to what they were working on, or with that game that they were working on, they basically are just gonna make it themselves, but not using the assets that came from Nexon, then that's different. I don't think they'd be in any trouble there because one, the game wasn't released, so there's no real copyright to the ideas of it. And yeah, I don't think, from what I understand, you can't copyright ideas. So
I think that's bad. Like if that happened, and again, there's no evidence that this happened. Like it's just somebody saying this and some like vague picture comparisons.
yeah, that's also the case where this isn't an actual like lawsuit filing, like Nexon actively going at Iron Mace or Iron Mace. So it's just some random dude. So it could just be all fanfic. You know what I mean?
But yeah, that's 100% bad. Like we're not talking about a theoretical here. Like there's a very specific thing that was said, and if that specific thing that was said happened, I think that yes, that would be bad.
Yes, agreed.
So yeah, I mean, there's the video right there. On Iron Mike's website, they said they worked for a greedy developer. I mean, maybe they did. I have no idea. But either way, you shouldn't be able to just like leak the assets and then just effectively take them and do that. There's no evidence of game assets being used from P3. Every asset on the game is from an Unreal Engine marketplace. Yeah, well, if there's no evidence for it, then it should just go immediately into the garbage. Corporations are so pathetic whenever it comes to taking risks on a good idea. They scrapped Dark and Darker, only attempt to make a Tarkov clone, stuffed with microtransactions that would have 100% failed. Now they see Dark and Darker becoming this incredibly successful passion product, and they want to go back on that decision to cut the game. I don't really know if
that's not even what's happened, because Nexon hasn't done anything yet. That could be what happens, but it hasn't yet.
It's true or not. It's most level of disgust and greed. That's just what happens. I mean, again, I do hope Dark and Darker isn't negatively affected by this. Of course, right? I mean, the game tilts the fuck out of me. It annoys me a lot. It's not really like my kind of game in that way. Because like any game where like if you die and you lose a bunch of stuff, it just makes me not want to play the game because I feel like I get like my time deleted. So I'm not even like a massive fan of this kind of stuff. But even then, yeah.
I'm not the biggest fan of like roguelikes, but I still have fun with them.
I think it sucks, for sure. I had so much fun playing Dark and Darker. Yeah, I mean, I enjoyed the game too. I played it. It's just that like my tilt level for that game goes up extremely fast, if that makes sense. Assets not stolen. Nexon abandoned project idea because they thought it wasn't going to be profitable. Devs quit and make the game become successful. Well, that would mean that it's stolen. So my understanding...
Well, no. Like, if they didn't take those assets and reuse them or use them for their game, it's not stolen. If they make whole new assets that are similar to what was there, that's not stolen.
Like, I'm sure every, software development job is different, but my understanding is that whenever you work in software development and you're developing things for that company, even if the project doesn't get completed, the company still owns the IP of the things that were completed during the work on the project.
Yes, they do. But as I think I mentioned, is they can't own the idea, and they can't own like the style that the game is in.
Like it's common sense. I mean, there's not even like how could you even view this any other way?
Yeah, no,
yeah,
absolutely.
It's all proprietary. That's what I would assume too. So yeah, you have to assign that. Yeah, assign to that condition exactly.
And it's hard to say if Iron Mace even signed contracts where after a certain amount of time, they cannot work on projects that are similar to what they're currently working on. I know sometimes they have those in the contracts, So if that was the case, then that would be something else Nexon could go after them for. But it's hard to say. Really, it's a wait and see, because if Nexon doesn't do anything, whoever this random dev is, it doesn't fucking matter. Because he has nothing to do with it. Like, he can't make any lawsuits because he doesn't own that IP. It's Nexon. So, good video, though. Really interesting. Hopefully, it wasn't the case where all they did was just take the idea and just make their own game with it. So,